I like Joe Biden, and I worked with him, and I was grateful to work with him. The question is whether at this age he should have run. But he did run. It's Trump and Biden. I mean, you can take the easy way out and say, well, I'm not going to vote for either of them. But one of those guys is going to be president of the United States. And people ought to focus on that and give up on the sort of fantasy of that there's going to be another candidate.
Former Obama campaign advisor David Axelrod saying the November election is Biden versus Trump again, whether you like it or not. Here to react, Fox News contributor Joe Concha. Joe, welcome. I was looking at this clip. He also said in there, which I think is really fascinating, he said, you know, this is not 1968, and there's no generation of elders who can go to the White House and convince Biden not to run. He's not going anywhere. Wow, that says to me that David Axelrod would have liked to have had a group of elders. They wanted him to not run. They couldn't get him or Jill to agree to that. And so here we are. He doesn't sound happy about the fact that Joe Biden's a candidate.
Oh, Rachel, if you've listened to David Axelrod, a smart guy, he won 2 campaigns with Obama. If you've listened to him over the past year and a half, he has begged practically without saying it, Joe Biden to back out of the race. And I think what this tells us, given the source, is that Michelle Obama wants no part of jumping into this race or any race. Remember, Axelrod worked for Barack Obama. He has a very close relationship, obviously, with the former First Lady. She has a very nice life right now, living on an estate.
She sure
which
does.
should have its own zip code on Martha's Vineyard, right?
Mm-hmm.
And outside of a mostly symbolic role at Netflix, she hasn't worked anything resembling a real job in 3 decades. Then you look at Gavin Newsom, and he can't run on, Make America California again. That's not going to fly given the state of California. And with Kamala Harris polling lower somehow than Joe Biden, your only option right now is an 81-year-old Joe Biden, and they're not going to replace him at the convention because you can't be the party that swears it is the only option to save democracy from Donald Trump and at the same time proceed to insert a candidate like they would in the Soviet Union during your convention by the party power brokers without one primary vote being cast by the people to decide who their nominee is.
I don't know,
I guess
Joe.
it's full steam ahead with Joe Biden. And we don't use full steam very often with this president who's aging like potato salad left out in the sun, but this is their guy. I mean, we got to face it.
Well, I don't know. I think you underestimate the communist things this party, the Democrat Party, is willing to do and somehow seems to get away with. Let's move to this, because in that same discussion, they talked about the third-party candidate, RFK Jr. I know you heard what they had to say about it. What are your thoughts about whether, who that will hurt the most, RFK Jr.'s presence in the race?
I use basic logic, and I think if RFK Jr. is a Democrat, then therefore he hurts the incumbent who is also a Democrat. I don't see where Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who's an old school liberal, but, a former environmental lawyer, he may still be that, how does he possibly take votes from Donald Trump given the huge gap in policy differences? And everybody always points to, well, they agree on the vaccines. Well, the vaccines aren't a thing anymore. In 2021, I might buy that. It isn't now. It's Trump versus Biden. Right now, I'll leave it here, Rachel. Post-conviction, 2 polls out, Donald Trump is seeing a bump post-conviction while Joe Biden continues to struggle. That is very telling, Rachel.
All right. Thank you, Joe. Always great getting your take on these things. Take care.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.